Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
We are back. We're back.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. All good?
Guys, how are we?
All good.
Not too bad.
All good. Yeah.
All good. All good.
Very
Just the
excited
three of us.
about everything hotting up
Yeah.
in the past couple of hours.
Yeah.
Starting to kick off.
Hmm.
No harm and something happening.
What we're saying about time?
Yeah, about time. You know, just needed something. It needed something to kind of kickstart it. We are not alone tonight, though. It was more than three of us. We have the team from the Toon Review. And when I say team, we invited all the crew on from Channel 4, the Toon Review. But only one of them made it. So we don't have Veronica Corningstone, aka Danielle. I believe she's working. So hello, Danielle. We'll see you next time. We don't have Champ Kind, aka Billy, Whammy. So we don't have him. And we don't have Brian Fontana. 60% of the time, his stats are right all the time. So we don't have Alex. But we do have the main man. He's kind of a big deal. Ron Germany. No, hang on. Ron Burgundy. That's it. Here he is. Right, Paul.
Evening.
Evening, mate.
Evening, Paul.
Brilliant.
No need.
Thanks for turning up.
That's all right. Listen, unfortunately, I mean, I know Alex has had to jump off my shows a couple of times this week because he's been he's inundated with work. He's driving to Poland tomorrow, so like, you know, just to bring some.
I was going to say he's traveling the world, isn't he?
Yeah, well, apparently the haulage companies are charging him the earth to bring his stuff back over. So he's bought a car and he's going over to bring some of it back himself. So
wow. And the price of fuel.
Hats off to him. I know.
Yeah.
Crazy it is, but and Danielle's up at 4:30 in the morning or something. And Billy's he looked like hell on the show last night, and sounded like Darth Vader. So he's tucked up in bed, I think, with the flu.
Get well, Billy.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Best wishes.
Right. Best wishes. We talk a bit about football. I think there's only one place to start. And keepers. Let's talk about Popey. There is a new Pope in town.
You've even got a name for him.
Popey.
You've even got a name for him. What's going on, man?
That's his prep, That's his prep.
An obvious name, Popey. The news was kind of breaking down. We did talk about the last while, but there's a few mentions on Twitter, and it sounds like it's nearing getting over the line, of course, to be medicals and stuff like that. But it looks like a done deal. I know Jordan was reporting on it as well. Somewhere between 8 and 10 million is being mentioned. I think I'm sure, Paul, you've covered it in your shows as well. We were saying, Dubravka's 33. Popey will be is 30. So like you are gaining 3-year age deficit there. So it's a good option to bring in and to get us. He could do a job for us for a few years. He's a good keeper, solid keeper. In the England squad. Happy with that bit of business, lads. And I'm bringing in Pope first of all. I'll go with you first, Paul.
Yes, I guess I am. If it is around 8 to 10 million, definitely. I mean, when it was first banded around, we were looking at them. They were quoting sort of what, 40 million quid at first, and I thought, nah, you know, that's ridiculous. But 8 to 10 million, I can see that, and you know, let's just pray that he's not afraid of crosses. Yeah, see what I did there.
Yeah.
Hey! No, I listen. I'm the more I think about it, the more yes, I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. And it's good competition for Dubravka at the end of the day. But I have a feeling Nick Pope won't want to come to the club without some sort of belief that he's going to be number one at the start of the season, at least. Which is a bit of a shame on Dubravka. But look, I mean, I put a video today saying that he's prone to the odd mistake. He made one against us at St James's last season, and then a Southampton fan that follows the channel said, just go and watch him against West Ham. Go and watch him against West Ham last season. He was absolutely unbelievable. So he's definitely got a lot of pros more than cons, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. You know, I like him as a keeper. I would have preferred him was going for someone younger. And I know that the lads even were throwing out a few suggestions last night on the show. And actually, you just mentioned that now, is if you haven't caught that, because it was a surprise one, it's the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, but a free transfer special. And I like the way you put it, Pete. Fully Loaded Free Transfer Show. I wish I thought of that when I was making the poster.
Here he is with his woos all over the place.
There might be a few of them tonight.
I gotta be honest, and I think Chris was the same. Like, really enjoyed that show. Something a little bit different. And yes, for anyone in the chat, we did venture into the retirement home now and again. We did. I understand that, but there were some gems as well. And we didn't even cover them all. There was a lot. We could probably do another show on the back of that with regards to the free transfer. So yeah, really good show. Really enjoyed that one. Good stuff. If you haven't watched it, get onto Loaded Mag NUFC. Give it a watch.
Cool. Well, let's stick with you, Pete, and your thoughts on Popey.
Oh, Popey. I love it, Daz. Look, for me, it's very simple. We are welcoming in our number one keeper. He will be our number one next season. I've got no doubt about it. I think it's been well documented. You know, he's in the England picture. He wants to go to the World Cup, otherwise he probably would have stayed at Burnley. I think he enjoys being at Burnley, but he has to play Premier League football if he's going to make it and go to Qatar. He would have had assurances from Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth and whoever they would have spoken to say, if I'm signing for Newcastle United, I want to be starting. He will be our number one goalkeeper next season. You look at them, Dubravka and Pope side by side. They're not too dissimilar. Both very good shot stoppers. I would say Pope's probably better aerially and coming out and collecting the ball from crosses and corners and various other things. Although he did drop a clanger at St James's Park, of all places, where Callum Wilson benefited. But look, Agent Pope here did us a job, got us the 3 points, because I think he knew in the future that he'd be signing for Newcastle United. That's just my opinion, my conspiracy theory. But look, he's going to be our number one, no doubt about it.
That's a big. Chris, your thoughts on Mr. Pope?
Yeah, so we've spoken about Pope in the past, haven't we? And I think Pete wrapped it up quite nicely there when we said that, you know, there was other potential targets that we had higher up the list, if you like. However, and our very good friend Martin, who's not with us tonight, I thought he put out a fantastic
Invisible
tweet.
Man.
Yeah, the Invisible Man.
I'm starting to think he's an enigma, me. Does he really exist?
But no, Martin put out a really good tweet before, and he said, you know, I think anybody turning the nose up at Nick Pope for 8 to 10 million, is absolutely wrong. Oh yeah.
He always comments, but he never puts his mug on the screen. What's going on, Martin? What's going on, man?
We're missing him.
we literally talk about him and he just appeared. Literally, as soon as you mentioned his name, he popped up on the screen with that. That is brilliant. Classic.
Enigma.
Was that a heart? Yeah, that's a heart. I know we love you, Mars. Yeah, so I think with Nick Pope, I mean, you've got to look at it, haven't you? And Freddie Woodman, I know Daz, we're probably going to touch on that in a minute, but Freddie Woodman's left the club today. And if you're bringing in the likes of Nick Pope to challenge Martin Dubravka, and Pete's right, you know, he will have been assured that he will be the number one next season. But having him and Dubravka, as we spoke about yesterday, Pete, on the free transfer show, it's not just the starting 11 that we need to improve on. It's the underbelly of the team as well. So, you know, your bench, your squad in on a whole. And does Nick Pope improve the squad? He absolutely does. You know, if you're asking me in the next 3, 4, 5 years, do I see Nick Pope as the number one at Newcastle? Probably not. But certainly for the next year, 2 years, you know, he's going to improve the squad as a whole. And I think for that price, we'd be silly not to be in for them, because 8 to 10 million for, you know, an established England international who admittedly had a pretty decent season last season with Burnley, and you know, he's contributed. What, sorry?
Loads of practice.
Yeah, and he's contributed massively over the past 4 to 5 years in why they've stayed in the Premier League. He's been an integral part of that. So for us to pick him up for that price, I think is really good business.
Yeah.
That's for Chris. Well, yeah, as you touched on it, Chris, let's go. And I'm going to go to Pete first. The news, I want to bring in our two keepers that we have, with the news on Freddie Woodman, and then what are we going to do with Carl Darlow as well? So your thoughts on the keepers we have, Pete? What's happening?
Bruce. Yes, Bruce. Yeah, one of the Geordies down south boys. Not spoke to him for a while. I hope he's well. Yeah, I know he's a supporter of the channel, so it's good to see him in the chat. Freddie Woodman, look, I tweeted out, I think when it was confirmed that he'd gone to Preston North End, that, you know, and look, to be fair, we've talked about it as a channel before. Freddie Woodman's been mismanaged massively, hugely under the previous regime. You know, he should have got loan moves, and he didn't. He was left to rot on the bench. And to be fair, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, lads, for you guys, you know, Rafa Benitez did not look after Freddie Woodman very well at all. He is probably one of the biggest culprits of letting down Freddie Woodman in his development of any manager. And I just felt that if he'd have been managed better and maybe, you know, coached into the team, we could have got rid of Darlow, moved him on, brought Freddie Woodman in alongside Dubravka, and then had a natural change of Freddie Woodman coming in. And maybe even if that wasn't the case, giving him more loans in the Championship. We saw what he did with Swansea. He was fantastic for them. Just missed out from getting promoted to the Premier League. And it's just like, it's frustrating that he's had so many missed opportunities to really develop his game, because he's a fantastic talent, man. And it's just a shame. But I've got no doubt he'll play Premier League football as a goalkeeper in the Premier League within the next 2 or 3 years. No doubt about it, because he is capable. He just needs to find his feet at a club. Preston's a good club. I don't think he'll stay there long, but I think it's a great club for him to play regular football and kick himself on. No doubts about that whatsoever. And Darlow, for me, I'm just checking the watch. I'm just waiting for him to move on. That's my opinion on Carl Darlow. Good servant, had some good games, but ultimately he's not what we need right now.
Cool. Cheers, Pete. Chris, we'll go to you next on your thoughts on, well, you mentioned Freddie Woodman, but Carl Darlow, what we're going to do with him?
I think we're going to get rid of him. I mean, you all know my thoughts on Mark Gillespie. I know a lot of people say we need to improve upon Mark Gillespie, and going forward, we probably do. But for me, as a third choice goalie, he doesn't really bother me, because I think local lads probably, you know, loves being here, isn't going to cause any ructions behind the scenes, probably will hardly play if we'll ever see him play. So for me, I'm quite happy for him to just be third choice goalkeeper, and barring an absolute disaster, whether that be suspensions or injuries, we're probably not going to see him in a Newcastle shirt, and that's no disrespect to him, but, you know, we'd probably be looking for a higher caliber of goalkeeper. But I've got no issue with Mark Gillespie staying, certainly for the foreseeable future. But Carl Darlow needs to be improved upon, as did Freddie Woodman. And I think Pete made a great point, you know, when he's talking about his development. And to be fair, Pete, you could probably one of the areas you could probably point at Rafa Benitez is the way that he managed some of the younger players. We saw it with Kevin Mbabu, quickly shifted out. We saw it with Ivan Toney. We saw it with Adam Armstrong, and they've all gone on to bigger and better things since they left Newcastle. And whether that's down to the fact that, you know, whether that's down to Rafa mismanaging them, or, you know, maybe not finding them the right move, or whether that's down to the fact that, you know, they've not fulfilled their potential. But you either point the finger at Rafa Benitez, or you point the finger at Sholi Almiobi, or you just point the finger at Mike Ashley if you want to do that, because ultimately we've lost some young talent. Either, you know, we've sold them, released them, or now we've let Freddie Woodman go for a nominal fee. And let's not forget, it was probably 2 or 3 seasons ago that Freddie Woodman was being linked with a 15-20 million pound move to Arsenal, and now he's seemingly been shipped out to Preston for an undisclosed fee, which I would imagine will be a nominal fee, probably below 5 million, I'd imagine. And it's a shame, but I suppose from my point of view, I'll be interested to see his development. I'll be interested to see how he gets on, and I do wonder, you know, especially now Dan Ashworth's in and has signed this deal off, whether there will perhaps maybe be a clause in there where we can buy him back in the future if we want to. So that would be something I'd be thinking about anyway.
Nice one. Interesting. Good idea. Paul, on the keeper, I actually forgot about Mark Gillespie. He talk about invisible men. He's totally invisible. I know, yeah, he fulfills a job for us in being an invisible third keeper. But yeah, your thoughts on our sub keepers, let's say, Paul.
I've got this funny feeling that Darlow's going to end up with Borough, and I know a couple of reports came out yesterday that looked to be the case. But I think Borough would be a really good move for him. You know, first team football he would get. You know, a team that will be pushing for the Premier League. So for me, I think, you know, Darlow can go on to good things. He want to keep his career going. A lot of people have said, well, what about Forest? I think Forest have got a very, very good keeper there already. The African bloke, I can't remember his name, but he's a good goalkeeper. So I don't think there'll be at any stage of a rush to get Carl Darlow back. So I think Borough would suit him fine. For Freddie Woodman, for me, you know, he's 25 now. I think he's running out of time. I think he has been mismanaged, no doubt about that. But now at this stage of his career, he needs to stay at a club. He needs to bed in it with a club instead of just jumping from club to club. That's all he's done for 5 years now, is jumping around from club to club. He's had no... you know, when he's on loan so much, it's hard to get sort of bonded with a club. You know, when you're on loan, you know that. And it's, you know, he performed really well at Swansea. For me, Swansea should have bought him. I think that was a big mistake on Swansea's part. Maybe they did look to buy him, but we didn't sell. I don't know. But that would have seemed like a perfect chance for Freddie, just to bed in with a club and stay there. So, you know, Gillespie can stay where he is. He is the forgotten man, isn't he? But he's there as third keeper. He's a Geordie himself. So, like Chris said, he'd be happy where he is. But I think for the other two, you know, Darlow, he's got to move on if he wants to continue playing first team football. Now that, you know, if it looks like Nick Pope's coming in, but we'll have to wait and see on it. But I really do think that Darlow, for somebody like Middlesbrough, suit him fine.
Cool. I have a bit of information on Darlow as well from someone I was talking to. I can't say who, but they're saying that Darlow's going nowhere. Because he's sitting on 35-40 grand, and as in, unless he goes through a Premier League club, then they're the only ones that are going to pay that money. So,
well, I think this is the problem we've got, Daz. This is the problem we've got with a lot of the players at the club still, who we need to get out the door. Is wages. You know, it's wages that are going to cause a massive problem, because, you know, Charnley and I mean, God, it sickens you when you think what kind of money these players are getting, that they're nowhere near worth that. And now it's left us in the shit, because we're trying to get these guys out the door and know the club. You know, let's face it, most of them now that we want out the door, championship level, there's no championship club going to pay that kind of money. So we're now looking at loan deals and paying some of the wages to these clubs to help, you know, get the players out the door, which it's just put us right in the crap. And that's the mismanagement of the club that we had before we were taken over.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to move on to the next section. So next, 1 second, just we're going to take this. Bonjour, Allan. Ça va? A message for Marty. You have it uploaded. Nice one, Allan.
Va te faire, et ta mère, et ta sœur, et ton boulot, et ta caisse pourrie, et cette merde que t'appelles de l'art. Va te faire, et tes potes, que je reverrai plus jamais. Tout le monde sauf ton chien. Allez tous vous faire foutre. Je jure que je voulais le meilleur quand ça s'est terminé. J'ai même tenté de me mordre la langue quand tu as merdé. Maintenant t'envoies mes potes des textos remplis de questions. Ils ne t'ont jamais aimé depuis le début. Sortir avec une meuf, je déteste pour l'attention. Elle a rompu au bout de 2 jours, quelle connexion. C'est comme si tu faisais n'importe quoi pour mon affection. Pour ça tu t'y prends de la pire des façons. Je ne voyais qu'en toi, mais c'est fini maintenant. Et j'essayais d'être sympa, mais tu ne comprends pas. Donc laisse-moi l'expliquer. A, B, C, D, A, V, F, et ta mère.
That was for Marty. A special one for Marty.
I like that. I like that.
Wow.
So you can see why I was disappointed when he didn't actually turn up tonight. Damn it! But that was for you as well, Pete. ASM is really getting. He did it last summer as well. He puts up the clips of the training. I'm sure there's the rest of the lads are putting in the effort as well. We like as well. I'd like to see him coming back. But are we going to see a new rejuvenated Allan Saint-Maximin at the start of the season? What's your thoughts?
Definitely. Just before we talk about that comment on the screen is actually one of my ex-students from last year. He left last year, and he's just dropped me an email.
Mr. Davey,
Mr. Davey is sitting watching loaded Mag NUFC with his stepdad. He's just dropped me an email. He's actually sent me a picture of his on screen watching this live. So you know what? I'm not seeing Caden since obviously they left school and went off to college. So really nice to hear that he's doing well, and dropped him an email. Fantastic kickboxer. So hopefully we'll see him winning some titles in the future, as long as he doesn't keep getting injured every 5 seconds. I had to deal with his injuries and his crushes all the time. So hopefully he'll win some trophies. But no, great to see that he's popped up and watching us live. So yeah, great to hear. So sorry, I just wanted to just throw that one out.
No, nice to get in, Pete. No, I'm going to go to Paul first, because I know Paul sits on the same fence as Martin when it comes to ASM. So what's your thoughts? Are we going to see a rejuvenated ASM at the start of the season?
Yes, we are. Look, I'm not as far down the line as Martin with ASM. He frustrates the crap out of me on numerous occasions, but that's not to say there's not a player in there. And I think I'm waiting to who we bring in. Who he's going to be playing alongside, and who he's going to be up front with. Are we going to sign somebody on the other side so he can have a good relationship with and switch wings at times and stuff like that? So I'm intrigued to see who we get in. But I think he's proved he's gone away in the summer. He's not just having a good time like a certain twat Jack Grealish, who, by the way, looked like a 50s Jimmy Savile in that last picture I just seen of him. Absolutely off his fucking head, by the way. I can't stand the kid. And honestly, I would love someone just to put the nut on him and just shut him up. But the thing is with ASM, I think he's working hard. He wants to be better. We know that, and I'm willing to give him a chance. Let's see how he gets on to start next season, and maybe by Christmas we'll go from there.
Cool. Let's hear from the opposite side of the camp as well.
I don't like Grealish, by the way. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but I fucking hate him.
On the gas, Paul.
We gathered.
Chris, we'll go to you next. Thoughts on ASM come back all firing on all cylinders?
Yeah, do you know what? That's an interesting one. I think, like Paul, I suppose you've got Martin there, and then you've got Pete there, and I'm more Pete's side, but I'm not as far over as Pete when it comes to ASM. Like, I'm a massive fan of him, and I was speaking yesterday about how much I love Hatem Ben Arfa, and he's still my favourite player, and he's very much looks like he is going to be the nearest thing that we're going to get to Ben Arfa these days, but. I suppose for me, like, it was funny when I was watching that fantastic video you put together, Daz. I was thinking this is a really big season for them, and I think he knows that. We the one thing that ASM has lacked, I would say, over certainly the past 6 to 12 months has probably been the numbers, and that's really what we're missing. And especially the last few months of the season, I think I've been saying it for ages. I've been waiting for him to pop. And we never really saw that. We saw that fantastic home game against Everton where he basically dominated the whole game, and we know that he's more than capable of that, and we know that's what he can bring, to the game, and he's a match winner. We know that. And if you force me to say, would I rather see the back of him or keep him? Absolutely, I'd rather keep him. But I do acknowledge that he's getting now, is he 25, and it's now's time really for him to really kick on. And I know everyone has been a little bit tongue-in-cheek over the comments he made about the Ballon d'Or, but if he genuinely and is really serious about that, he's really going to have to lift his levels, because I know there was another quote as well when he was talking about Sadio Mane, and his comments were misconstrued, and he's also talked about the fact that he will play better when he's got better players around him. Well, that's going to be this season, Alan. So this season, we're going to be expecting big things. And do I think he can do it? Absolutely. But he's going to have to start doing it pretty soon, because he's a big player for the club. But we can't have passengers. We need people who are fully on board with Eddie Howe and the way that the team plays. But from seeing videos like that, you never get bored of it. That's exactly what you want to see your players doing in pre-season, and full credit to him for doing that.
So, Chris, I know it's a we from Pete that you want to see him back firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's look, it's a big season for him. I don't expect anything different. We saw, and you alluded to it, Daz, as well, and we've talked about it before. We saw him do this last season, or the last summer, where he was running up hills and he was training and doing all the things that he was doing. But he was doing that to kind of show what he's about, ultimately to get a move, because we're under old ownership. Yeah. And we didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and he was literally looking to put performances in to get a move elsewhere. Now, it's really weird that in 12 months, he's now putting these videos out in order to stay at the club, because he knows where we're going and he wants to be a part of it. So it's a big season for him, and he's got to turn it around. Now, what we did see, in my opinion, is the last few games, is that we saw progress, we saw improvement. We're making the right decisions with passes, getting assists on the back of it, being involved in goals. So Joe Linton made a great pass for the Callum Wilson / Ben White own goal, but Allan Saint-Maximin played the pass to Joe Linton that created the opportunity for the goal. So he's been involved in moments, and he's not going to be involved in moments for 90 minutes. And I think that's what we need to understand, is that no player is constantly involved and has a constant impact on the game for 90 minutes.
Especially flair players, Pete. Especially flair players.
Exactly, Paul. You're absolutely right. Fair players, they have their special moments in games where they turn up and they are producing the moment. So I was at Turf Moor. I watched Allan Saint-Maximin. People were kind of around me, were moaning and groaning about him in the first half. I don't think he had a bad game. I think he had a lack of service. In the second half, however, when Burnley had to press us, thank you, Truls, when they had to press us, he then got a lot more room, and then actually for long parts of that second half, destroyed Burnley and proved how good he was. And I think he's going to have those moments next season. I really do. Bearing in mind he barely had a preseason with Steve Bruce. If you look at his stats last season, and I'm not talking goals and assists, I'm talking about his fitness stats. He played more 90 minutes than any other season for Newcastle United. That for me is progress. We could barely get 60 minutes out of him in the first 2 seasons. He's made improvements on the back of that. Under Eddie Howe, I see him being electric and dynamic for longer next season under a good preseason under Eddie Howe, providing he doesn't get injured. So I just think, it's a big season for him. He's 25 years old. He's not a kid anymore. He knows he's got to step up, because if he doesn't step up, we've been linked with so many, and we've talked about it on the transfer show. Paul, you've talked about it on your transfer show with yourself and Alex. We've been linked with, and actually, Paul, you've mentioned this on your show a few times, so many left-sided attacking midfielders. We've been linked with so many, but yet we always think, well, that's Maxi's place. But if he doesn't perform next season, it's no longer Maxi's place. And actually, we will sign a left-sided attacking midfielder that will take his place. So although it's kind of dubbed that I'm on Maxi's fence and I'm on his side, I support him because I can see the potential in his ability. But at the same time, I'm not glued to him. If he doesn't perform, I want someone in place that is going to perform. And that's my opinion. But I would much rather put my eggs in his basket because I see the potential in him. That's where I stand right now. But that could quite easily change, because ultimately, I want Newcastle United to be the best they can be. I want them to win games. And if that means taking ASM out of the team in order to win games and move us up the table, I take that all day.
I think that's something that's going to happen next season, though, with a lot of players, that they're going to have to up the game, because they know, the power that we've got now for potentially bringing new blood in. And if by the end of this transfer window, I fully expect us to have 3 or 4 signings, so we can have a bench that will replace quality with quality. So if the players aren't putting the minutes in, they aren't grafting enough, then they'll be out the side. If it's not working for them, they'll be out the side, because we'll have the same quality coming in. Alex put a player up yesterday who'd been linked with us yesterday, Thorgan Hazard, Aiden's brother, and everybody thought that he was just a one-position player. But when Alex put the stats up, he can play. He's played in 6 different places on the pitch, as well as left and right. He can play the middle. He can play midfield. He can play up front. He's just an all-round utility guy, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see that these kind of players being linked with us. So for Maxi, he knows he's going to have to step up his game, and he's going to have a better final product, whether that be a shot or a cross. He knows what he needs to work on. Eddie Howe will know what he needs to work on, and let's just see how he does, because it's going to be the same across the board for a lot of players, that they've got to step up now. They can't just be going through the motions like they've done for the last 5-6 years. Those players that have been with us a while, they've all got to be on the pinnacle of their game, and if they're not good enough, they'll be gone.
Yeah, and to round out off the ASM talk, as I said before, I wanted to give him this year to see what he can do. Great to see him put in the effort on his holidays. I'm expecting a big season for Willock as well. I know he's probably doing a bit of training in the background, so I think I saw something somewhere about him. But yeah, interesting times ahead. Let's move into the next topic, and we have a choice here. Names linked in the last couple of days, and I know we'll get into more detail in the fully loaded transfer show. Cheers, Jordy Mick, as well. He's talking about merch here. Stay tuned, Jordy
March?
Mick.
Did you say March or merch?
I said merch.
March. Sounds like bloody March. April,
Merchandise.
May, June, July. Aye.
Yeah. Irishness, #Irishness now.
Oh God,
one trending tonight. Right, let's. I'm just going to pick one because you can talk about any. Let's talk about this man first, because he splits a lot of opinion. Yes, from the Everton fan in the house that groan came from. Sorry,
I don't want him.
The man with Everton fans in his house.
Now. I don't want Calvert-Lewin.
No.
I don't see what the difference is signing him to Callum Wilson. I think Wilson's a better striker. I know they've got, both got injury issues, but I genuinely think Wilson is going to stay fit a long time this season because he's having a full pre-season with Eddie, and that's the difference. Rather than that useless cabbage he's, training him again, he's going to be fit as a fiddle come the start of the season, and we'll see a much fitter Wilson. I'm telling you now. Calvert-Lewin can sod off anywhere. He can stay with the skip rats for all I care. I don't care, just not Newcastle. Sorry, Chris, I know you're family of Everton fans, but tongue in cheek.
It's fine, mate. Don't worry.
I just don't want him at Newcastle. I'm sorry. I'm putting it out there.
No.
That's a no from Paul. There's been an awful lot of it. Like Pete Graves is bigging him up. It seems, I find that the media are kind of, those people that are in the know, they're kind of going, get ready for this. This is going to be coming your way. That kind of approach is what I'm getting from this. And I was the same, Paul. I said, no, don't want him at all. And
but Pete Graves isn't going to come out and say what we say about him. You know what I mean?
No, he can't.
He's on Sky Sports News. He's not going to come out and say, I don't want Calvert-Lewin at Newcastle because he's shite. You know, he's not going to come out and say that. I mean, I don't know what all this big up of Calvert-Lewin is. I really don't. I think he struggled to score goals last season when he was fit, and then he was injured the rest of the time. Callum Wilson is a beast compared to him. An absolute beast.
Yeah. 100% agree.
And the money they're asking for him, by the way. Jesus Christ. Come on. 40, 50 million quid for Calvert-Lewin.
Oh, thanks.
No.
Give us a 10 million Pope deal. If you got it from 10 million, we'd take him. But
I wouldn't take it for 10. I'm sorry. There's other strikers out there who I think are better that we should be going for. And I don't get this Calvert-Lewin thing. I don't.
Chris, I think we'll go to you next because it'd be a big talking point in your house if he heads to Newcastle.
Yeah, there will be, mate. I mean, my lads, he's took a real big interest in football this season. I've been trying to get him into footy for years, and it's only been recently that he's really took it up. And obviously he's a blue like his granddad and stuff, so I understand why he's done that. But equally, I'm not a fan of Calvert-Lewin, and to be fair, he and as I say, my lad, who he's only recently got into football. He's actually like winding me up over it and going, 50 million. We'll take 50 million for Calvert-Lewin. And that's him saying it. And my brother-in-law's saying it. And my mates are saying it. And I just think he's been bigged up that much. And I think he'd find as well, if he wasn't English, he didn't play for England. I don't think there'd be so much hype over him. Yeah, I mean, when Ancelotti came in, Ancelotti was quoted as saying to him, "Don't be taking any touches, Dominic. Just hit it straight. Just hit it first time." And I think the reason that he said that to him is, one, he probably is more of a poacher than someone who builds play up and sets things up. But I think it's because I don't think he's got that much ability, if I'm honest. I think he's probably one of those players who arrives in the box at the right time, and he's not afraid to stick his head on things, which, I'm not saying that he's completely rubbish, but for the prices that were being quoted, there's so much better out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking 50 million, as Paul said, you could probably get two better strikers than that for him. I really believe that. So for me, it's a massive no. I certainly wouldn't be going for Calvert-Lewin, and I know this guy down here who's about to talk about it. I know he feels quite the same.
I wish Daz you'd have given me the heads up because
could you feel it anymore?
Because I feel like I need this if I'm going to talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for fuck's sake. Right. Apologies, Caden. I don't normally swear. But yeah.
Mr. Davey.
Yeah.
Davey.
But look, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he must wake up every morning thinking it's his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That he's playing Premier League football. 2, that he's playing and being regularly picked for England. Because for me, I don't see it. I don't see the quality. Everyone can have a good moment. Everyone can have a good run, a small patch where you score goals and you look decent. But for me, it's not consistent. It's not consistent over his career. It's not consistent over a course of a season. He had 1 or 2 decent seasons, but they're just 1 or 2. I think for long parts of the season, I think he plays poor. You look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, even in their worst moments at Everton last season, he was dog awful. He was bad. And that's the play that they were hanging their hat on. If you're looking at Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the summer, and look, let's face it, in January, the likes of Arsenal, us, and a number of other teams were linked with him. All of a sudden, those other teams have disappeared. Why? Because when the chips were down, he didn't perform. He wasn't good enough. And what you would expect from a player that you would consider quality and rated at 40, 50 million, is a player that drags Everton out of the mud, drags them out of the crap, gets them the goals that keeps them safe. He scored 1 or 2, but actually for long parts, he was dreadful. And I saw that comment earlier, and I just had to. But yeah, I look for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I just don't see the value in paying that sort of money, and it goes back to my original point that I made right at the end of last season. And the beginning of this summer and the transfer window and all the rest of it, is that if we're going to go out and buy a striker, right, we need to go out and buy a striker that does one of two things. One is a potential future top talent, and Ekitike potentially could be that guy. Or you go out and you know, fingers crossed, he still is the guy. I spoke to Lee today. He still believes that deal is going to happen, but let's wait and see. On the flip side of that, you've got, if you're going to go out and buy a striker, you want someone that's going to come in and be better than Callum Wilson. I don't see the benefit of bringing someone in that's of the same level as Callum Wilson. If you're going to bring a striker in that's going to be, you know, more experience in terms of age, in terms of, you know, in terms of that sort of stature, and the money that you're paying to bring them in, you want them to be better than what you've already got, unless they're the potential of a young striker that's going to move you forward. Like for me, I don't think he's neither of them, so I don't see the point in that happening. Now, you know, he's English, he's potentially available, and I get all that talk, but for me, I'd rather go out into Europe and get a ready-made striker. We already missed out on Darwin Núñez. He was far too expensive, and I get that, and I understood that, and it is what it is. But there are other strikers out there that I think we could get that could come in and command a starting berth straight away.
Oh, that's fair enough. So across the board, no one wants him. But
let's not forget either. Jason's just put a comment in there saying as well, you know, this Calvert-Lewin guy was modelling dresses when he was injured while his team was struggling against relegation. This guy was on a catwalk modelling dresses for GQ Sod magazine. I mean, you know, he's not exactly David Beckham. He can't get away with that sort of shit. So, nah, not for me. He's just not committed enough, and I don't think he's nowhere near what Wilson is. And, you know, when you're looking to bring in another striker, he has to be that level or better. And, you know, there's no point bringing in anybody, like Pete says, who is not as good as what we already have at the club. It's pointless money spent.
Paul, I haven't got an issue with him doing his modelling and catwalking and his Gillette shave.
Well, when he's battling relegation, that's the only thing that bothers me.
Exactly. But he just needs to read the room. He needs to read the room.
That's what I meant.
I agree with you, Paul. I 100% agree with what you're saying. He needed to read the room in that situation. Everton are in a relegation battle. The first time they would ever be relegated from the Premier League. They would look like they were gone. Don't be turning up at modelling gigs and doing your posing and all the rest of it, because it doesn't send the right message to your fan base, but neither does it send the right message to your potential suitors.
Just leave it to the summer. Leave it to the summer. Close season. Yeah. Just do that sort of thing. Not when you've got your teammates. I mean, can you imagine if you were a teammate of Calvert-Lewin's and you're battling relegation and things aren't going for you like it wasn't for Everton, you know, and you're seeing your teammates, you know, prancing up and down a bloody catwalk when you are going out to battle every game. It would piss me off as a teammate. You know, it's all right doing it in the summer. That's fine. There's no football on. But when you should be like Kieran Trippier when he was injured. He was still coming away with the lads. You know what I mean? Cheering them on and being involved in the dressing room. That's the kind of person you want in the dressing room. Somebody who, you know, whether they're fit or not, is still traveling away and still giving you all their experience to help you avoid a relegation situation that we were in when Trippier came. So that's what I'd rather see from somebody like, you know, a Calvert-Lewin, somebody who should be with his team. I genuinely believe that. But, you know, not everybody's like that nowadays. I know they're not, but it's just...
You got two players for Everton that are polar opposites. And regardless of what you think about him, you've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and what we've seen from him. And then regardless of what you think about him, you've got Richarlison. And yes, he's a diver. Yes, he was incredibly frustrating to watch as a neutral fan at the back end of last season. What he gave you heart, he gave you desire. He left everything on the pitch, and he ran himself into the ground for Everton Football Club. Now, regardless of his diving and whatever, you would rather take that. You would rather take someone that's going to leave everything on the pitch for the club and give everything for the club than do what Dominic Calvert-Lewin did. I would much rather take, and I don't know what your opinions on this, guys. This is obviously ad hoc. It's just out there. I would much rather take Richarlison. I would much rather take Richarlison as our striker alongside Callum Wilson than I would Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
I would.
What do you think
Yeah.
about it?
Million percent.
And he has a good, decent bus company as well, Richard Arlington.
Yeah,
But,
Richard Arlington, yeah.
But yes, I take Richardson over to Dominic Calvert-Lewin for sure. But just back to what Paul said, if he was good enough, I don't care what he wears. But yeah, we don't think he's good enough either. Shall we move on? I think we'll move on from everything. Maybe before we go to the next topic, we should go to the comments, Chris, and see if any questions, and it might link into some of the topics we have as well. So maybe we should go to Anthony.
Yeah, we can whiz to some comments here. I had to something. Tom Lynch said this at the very start, which I really enjoyed. We need a striker. Would Pope's arrival increase the likelihood of Jesus coming in? I liked that.
Nice one. That was good.
I did like that.
Imagine having the Pope and Jesus. I mean, that would be incredible.
This is it's going slightly off topic, but I know we've spoken about Romelu Lukaku very briefly, and we did see this break earlier on today, and Jan has said that Lukaku's gone to Milan on loan, and allegedly the fee's 10 million. Like, talking about mad business. I mean, Chelsea let him go for 10 million. What are your thoughts on that, boys?
Loan fee. Wages, cover his wages as well. I would have taken him for that. But
listen, Lukaku is one of them that you just don't know which Lukaku you're going to get. You know what it is? He's a very good striker. There's no doubt about that. He knows where the net is, and when he's on form and when his confidence is up, he is tremendous. He's done it for West Brom, Everton, not so much Man United, but he's done it in Milan as well. Didn't quite do it at Chelsea last season. Is it the Premier League? Is it, is he just more suited to Italian football where you get a bit more space, a bit more chances? I wouldn't take a chance on him at Newcastle because I think he much prefers the Italian game. He much prefers the space he gets there because he doesn't get that amount of time over here in the Premier League than what he does in Serie A.
For me, it might sound really harsh me saying this, but at the top clubs, he's a Premier League flop. At the top clubs, Chelsea, Man United flopped, and that's where you want to see Lukaku come to fruition. So you look at Everton, you look at West Brom, was an absolute monster. I watched his 100 or 100 plus Premier League goals the other day on Sky Sports, and some of the goals he scored at West Brom and Everton, he was just absolutely dynamic. He was a monster. The team was built around him. He was an absolute bull, and I love that about him, and that's why I really rated him as a striker. But when you go to the top clubs, when you go to Chelsea, Man United, you are not the main man. You are not a player that the team is evolved around. You've got other quality players that you have to play within, and he is the classic striker that has to be molded in terms of your team has to be molded around him.
The main man.
Yeah, it has to be the main man, and that's why he did so well at Inter Milan, in my opinion. And it's a shame. I think if he comes to Newcastle and and the team is molded around him, I think he scores 25 goals for us. Premier League goals. I think that he could be that guy. But Romelu Lukaku at 29 years old, he's looking at the upper echelons. He's still trying to. It's really weird. He scored crazy amount of goals in his career, but he's still trying to prove himself. He still clearly wants to play Champions League football. He won Serie A. He wants to go and win that again. I get that. I understand it. I think if he was a few years younger, I think he may have considered this because he would have seen us as a project that he could have built with, but not right now. Unfortunately, and to be fair, we would have had to break our wage structure to get him in, which is not. It's very, very clear that our owners, and rightly so, are not willing to do that.
No.
Yeah, no, I think. Oh, sorry, go on, Daz. Go on, mate.
Yeah, and I was just going to say another case in point with that one would be Jesse Lingard and what he's looking for. They're not going to break it to bring in someone of his ilk, which is not really up there and worth it to go into that damage. Sorry, Chris, you were going to talk about Lukaku.
No, mate, I was just going to say I totally agree with Pete there. You know what he's saying about Lukaku. I think you know, if there was an opportunity to get him on loan for the season, I think he'd do a really good job. But equally, you know, I think he's probably going to be looking above us, which I hate saying, but you know, if as Pete rightly said, if he was a few years younger, maybe he would see us as a bit of a project. But these next questions I'm going to ask, I'm going to group them together because it kind of, you know, goes hand in hand. But Tom Lynch asks, do you think Pope will actually be given the number 1 shirt? And then following on from that, Migs S says, do we think Dubravka stays if he's going to be the number 2? So Daz, I'll start with you first, mate. What do you think Pope's going to get the number 1 shirt if he signs? And do you think Dubravka would be happy to stay as the number 2 for the season?
I don't think he walks. Yeah, I don't think Popey walks into Newcastle and is handed that number 1 shirt. He'll be battling out for it in training and preseason, and whoever gets it for the first game of the season will then be struggling to hold on to it, and any pressure then the opposite will revert in. But I do think Dubravka will stay. I don't at 33 as well. He might as well stay. You know, he could go on to somewhere else. He did originally come into us on a loan, didn't he? And then we bought him for something like 4 million. But I can see him saying, I can't really see him going. So does that? And if Darlow doesn't go, is that may leave Darlow 3rd choice? Obviously, then.
He's got
but
fucking.
No, I think someone has to pay the big bucks.
He's had his fill at Newcastle United. Come on, Carl Darlow. Look, let's not look. This is my plea to Carl Darlow. Let's not be a harper. Come on,
yeah.
Just move on. Like
100% agree.
And Harper was much better, by the way.
Yeah, I do think Harper was a better goalkeeper.
Well,
I do. Not by much, but I think he was. I
beg to differ. But
in his prime. In his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had Shea Given in front of him, of course. Yeah, but
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I just wanted. Oh, we are. Yeah, Pete. I may as well throw this one in. So Ashington62 says Darlow back to Forest now, surely. So obviously we bought Carl Darlow from Forest. Forest are newly promoted.
Henderson.
Am I right in saying Samba is on his way out? Am I right in saying that?
Interestingly, Bryce Samba is going to Lens, where Seko Fofana is. Why he's chosen to go to Lens, I have no idea. It's not like they're playing European football or anything. Whether they're going to use, hopefully, some of that Seko Fofana money to bring him in, that Seko Fofana moves elsewhere, hopefully to the northeast. But again,
I've never heard you mention him before, Peter.
Well, it is what it is. But I was surprised actually to see that he's about to rubber stamp that move. But Carl Darlow to Forest? Nah, not a chance.
But Henderson is going to.
Henderson's gone, hasn't he? Why? Has he not gone?
No, it's literally going to be wrapped up in, I think, in the next.
Well, there you go. So, there's no way Darlow's going to go back there and sit as number 2.
No.
I actually said, I can't remember what show I said it on, but it might have been the Fully Loaded Transfer Show. But I was surprised, actually, Carl Darlow wasn't used as a make-way in part of the Nick Pope deal. I think that would have been a natural progression. I think Company as manager could have had Darlow as number 1, and Darlow could quite easily get Burnley promoted. He's good enough. For me, if Darlow goes to the Championship with Burnley, Darlow would probably be the best goalkeeper in that league, with maybe Freddie Woodman being close behind, but Preston are not as good as Burnley. I would have thought that would have been a no-brainer to make that deal happen. But
just on that, Pete, I think I read somewhere that company has his eye on a City reserve keeper to bring into Burnley. So that could be why.
Never.
Was.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, going back to his old club, connections.
Well, I mean, wow.
There'll be a few of those.
Wonder if Cole Palmer goes there. Cole Palmer.
Yeah, on loan.
Extremely talented player.
Yeah.
Wonder if they trust him with Vincent Kompany. Obviously, that's a side conversation, but great player, a player that we were linked with, and I think we inquired about in January to bring to Newcastle. Very, very good player. Good midfielder.
Didn't Craig Bellamy go to Anderlecht with Kompany?
Yeah, he was. He was.
Would he follow him to Burnley? Or I don't know what happened after that, but
unfortunately, Craig Bellamy was suffering with some mental health difficulties. So I think he stepped aside with his role from Anderlecht. He's come back to England or Great Britain. I think he's working through some of his problems. I like Craig Bellamy. I loved him at Newcastle. Thought he was a fantastic player. Yeah, me too. I really hope that he gets back into the game, because I think his infectious, passionate nature for the game is something that we need in football. I really, really do. So yeah, hopefully he is able to get back in the game, but hopefully with Burnley, like you said, Daz, I think it'd be a great piece of business getting him in the coaching team.
Yeah. Exactly.
Daz, can I just give a quick shout out to Ian from Toon Trader? His son Tommy, he likes to watch both channels, and he's a big fan of the Toon Review. He's knocked his ankle today and can't play cricket for a while, so get well soon, Tommy, man, and
get well.
Keep your chin up, sunshine.
Get well, Tommy.
He's a great kid, and hopefully gets well soon.
Nice shout out, Paul.
We've got a couple more questions, Daz. Yeah, just a couple more that have been started. I'm sure there's many more to come.
Do you want to mention that super chat that's come in for you?
That's crazy. I'll just put it up on the screen.
Wow. George, thank you.
George.
Thank you, George.
Absolutely spot on.
George. And George also won the signed shirt on my draw the other day for the from Toon Trader for the charity. So
I was watching that actually.
George.
Cool. Congratulations, George. And thanks very much.
Thank you for your support for the channel. Really appreciate it. And obviously the collab, which we're loving at the moment. It's great to have you on, Paul, Daz, and Chris. You know the score. It's great to have you on in talking all things Newcastle.
It's brilliant. And it's working the collab, which is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, rants as well. Keep those rants coming.
Yeah,
I don't rant. I just talk. Sometimes my feelings just take over my mouth. That's the way I've always been in life.
Nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe we should. While we're on it, maybe we should just mention that if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Or if you're watching this back on playback, hit that subscribe button, bottom right hand corner, right beside Pete, where Pete is there now. So yeah, and make sure to hit the like button as well. Pete's waving.
Pete, can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
The beard, it's getting long.
You know what? Yeah, I'm due for a visit to the hairdressers. I need a fresh chop, and I need a little. I'm thinking about getting rid of it.
So you could almost ski jump off that now, man.
Yeah,
I heard, Pete, that you weren't getting rid of it until this man signs.
Oh, you know what?
Be like that.
For Fargo, yeah. You know what? I'm not willing to take that risk because, it'll be an
Gandalf
monster. Yeah, Gandalf, but I have for Father's Day. The missus, the wife, got me a fantastic, nice little bottle of Martell brandy.
Nice.
I've kept it aside for us. I've got the Hennessy. Kept the Martell aside for that special occasion, just in case, because I love a bit of Martell. So it's there waiting for Sven Botman. Come on, Sven. Yeah, come on, Sven. It makes sense. Make the move because I want to crack it open.
I didn't know where you were going with that. Yeah, first when we were talking about shaving, I thought that you were saying you got Manscaped or something like that. Some case you were going to go and talk about
Manscaped.
Brandy.
I've got
Manscaped.
Manscaped's already.
Well, I don't want to know, man. I've got the Manscaped as well.
Yeah,
I don't. That's
got the Manscaped. The Manscaped's not. The Manscaped's not for this.
Hey, it is. Hey, Pete, it is. It is, man. You can do it all. I just I do me beard and me heat with the Manscaped.
No,
I don't go anywhere else.
I've got Mr. AK. He's my top hairdresser. He looks after me. Turkish guy, Besiktas fan. Always talk football when we're when he's obviously cutting my hair, shaping up the beard. He does a great job, but I think it's getting a little bit long. I might just cut it a little bit shorter.
Did you see what I did the other day with the did you?
What happened to the mustache? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were coming.
Yeah.
Listen, I had a task for about 30 minutes. I'll let Susan film what she needed to, and then that was it. It was off. Honestly, Tash, I cannot. No way. Doesn't work.
Sorry, we've kind of got off topic here, but Chris, back to the questions.
Well, that's the point. You've got to go off topic sometimes, dancing. It's not all like serious shit in life. People need to smile.
Before we go back to the questions, I just want to say, obviously, I had Caden, one of my ex-students, join the show. His cousin Seb, top guy, fantastic boxer. So you got kickboxer and you got boxer, both really, really good, and looking to progress in their respective sports. Seb, he's banging on emails, sending me, give me a shout out. Seb, massive respect to you.
Right, Seb.
Hope you're doing well. Look, Seb, Caden, great to have you on. Need to subscribe. Come on, make it happen.
Hey, Mr. Davey says subscribe.
Yes, or you get detention, boys.
I'll pull it back in and give them detention. Not subscribing.
Chris, back to the questions.
Yeah, it was interesting because we kind of went on to Man City, and part of this question relates to Man City. So Dean Lees says, love the show, lads. I'm a lorry driver and you keep me going through the night shift up to Scotland. I would personally put all my eggs in one basket and go for Sterling, Diaby and Paqueta and push the youth. Now, I particularly want to highlight the Sterling part of this because I know, well, I think it was during the Man City podcast, wasn't it, Pete, when we did the away days and they were talking about Sterling possibly going. And I think over the last 48, 72 hours, they've again talking about Sterling going. I know they've brought in Alvarez, haven't they? I think it's from River Plate. And Man City have been approached in terms of loaning him out, and they've said, no, absolutely not. Obviously, we know they've brought Haaland in. So somebody's going to have to make way. And some people are saying that it's going to be Raheem Sterling. So maybe unlikely, some may say, but would you be unhappy or opposed to us bringing Raheem Sterling in?
What I heard was that Sterling was probably going to end up at Chelsea, and that Jesus is the one that's going to make way. And there's a few clubs after Jesus then, but yeah, Jesus and Pope in the same pitch. I love that. Even though Mitch said originally when we were talking about strikers back a good couple of months ago now, is Jesus the one we really want. But at this stage, I'd love to see him rocking up. Sorry.
Sterling is class. Like, I'm sorry. Like he's just another level to anything that we could possibly want in our team. He could play as a number 9. He could play on the left. He could play on the right. He's just so versatile in that attacking position. I just think he's outstayed his welcome at Man City. I think Pep has transitioned him for the last year, and the fact that he barely kicked a ball in the last half of the season. I think what they're going to do now is transition Foden and Grealish into the team, get rid of Raheem Sterling, and bring those guys forward. And I think you'll see Man City play a different style of football with Alvarez and Haaland up front as natural strikers. I think they're going to change the way in which they play. And ultimately, Sterling scored a lot of goals for Man City, but do you really need his goals now when you got Haaland in the team? Probably not.
Well,
so
Haaland may flop, Pete. You never know. He might come to the Premier League
no chance.
Well,
he's too good.
I know
the
that,
guy's
I'm just-
too good.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, but unfortunately, it's not working.
It's
I think Stern
definitely
will go
not
back to London. I think Chelsea's a good shout for him. I have a feeling he'll end up in London.
I think Chelsea's an awful decision if he goes there. I really
Yeah,
do.
but you can see why he wants. He
Yeah.
grew up in London. You can see Chelsea are the big club in London, sort of. I'm gonna have Arsenal, Chelsea. I'm gonna have everybody coming at me now, but you know what I mean. The pull of Chelsea. It's the posh club in London. It's probably a life that he wants down there. He grew up there.
Paul, if you were a player and Tottenham, Chelsea, and Arsenal come in for you, who would you join?
Tottenham,
Right now.
Chelsea, and Arsenal. I go to Brentford for 10 grand less.
Yes,
Love
Paul.
it.
Yes, Paul. I love it. I love it.
To be honest, Chris, I think I'd go to Tottenham at the minute because of
Yeah,
what Conte
same.
is doing there. I
Same.
think if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be very excited about their coming season. What he's capable of doing as manager, the players he's putting together there. Basuma, I think, is a fantastic acquisition for them. So yeah, it would be Tottenham for me. I don't quite know where Arsenal going directional wise. They confuse me every day with some of the players they're linked with. I think Jesus would be a bit mad to go there, to be honest. I just don't see where they're heading at the minute. I think they're under a complete transition, which is going to take another couple of seasons, which Arsenal fans probably won't like. And Chelsea, it'll be interesting to see where the new owners take the club. So definitely Spurs, undoubtedly.
Yeah. And this. Oh, sorry, Pete. Go on, mate.
I've got a question for you guys. Obviously, we're talking about Raheem Sterling. I was thinking about this earlier. I was listening to something about Raheem Sterling going to Chelsea. I was thinking, why would he go there? Like, they've got an array of talent there. And I was thinking, if Raheem Sterling signs for Chelsea, would you take Callum Hudson-Odoi at Newcastle?
I'd rather Ziyech or Pulisic.
I would rather Pulisic. I was going to say, I think Pulisic for me.
Are they realistic to come to Newcastle, though?
I think Pulisic would. I believe he would. I think the problem with Ziyech is he's getting better, isn't he? He's took a while to get going in the Premier League, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing what he does as a player next season because he's got bags of talent. There's no doubt about that. Hudson-Odoi is definitely a talent, without a shadow of a doubt, and I think Tuchel rates him a lot. He frustrates Tuchel a lot as well. He's been brought off at half time and things like that under him. But I'd love to see Pulisic. I think he's rapid, that guy, and he's actually got a finish on him as well. So I'd take Pulisic.
What about Timo Werner?
Oh yeah, we don't.
I was a big fan of him when he played at Leipzig. It hasn't happened for him yet. But that's not to say it won't happen for him.
No.
The guy's got bags of talent. But is it a question? If you're Eddie Howe, do you look at that and say, right, I'm hanging a lot of money on Timo Werner. I'm hanging my hat on him. Is that too much of a risk? Because
fair point.
It's interesting, though. I mean, who'd have thought we'd have been talking about players like this 12 months ago?
I know.
Jesus,
I know. Do you know what? My problem with Oh, sorry, go on, Daz. Go on, mate.
No, go on, Chris. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my only problem with Hudson-Odoi is I wonder whether he's kind of in that Victor Moses issue. Not saying that Hudson-Odoi, isn't better than Victor Moses because he is, but I mean in terms of I know some managers have chosen to play Hudson-Odoi like right wing back. Some are playing in right midfield, some are playing in right wing, and I just wonder whether he's one of those players that. I wonder whether he's been pulled back from right wing because maybe he's not deemed good enough, fit enough. Maybe he's not got the right mentality. I don't know. But he always seems to be dragged further back the pitch. I mean, again, not putting him in the same breath as this player, but we've seen it with Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy's kind of been brought in for us. He's played right back, he's played right wing back, he's played right midfield sometimes. But whenever there's an option to play in right wing, there's always like a reluctance from the manager to put him in right wing. And I just wonder with Hudson-Odoi whether maybe it's an attitude problem. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Or he doesn't follow instruction. I'm not sure. But I just don't know with Hudson-Odoi. Obviously, Bayern Munich were majorly linked with him. They really wanted him. Tried to get him on a free. Ended up signing a new deal with Chelsea. Yeah, I'm just not sure. But yeah, Timo Werner, Pete, really interesting one because, as you said, as Paul said, came to the Premier League with a massive reputation. Liverpool went in for him as well. Ended up going to Chelsea, big fee. Hasn't quite worked out for him. But the thing with Timo Werner is, and I don't know whether you agree with this, but I always feel like he's a little bit unlucky. Like he does a lot of good things, and then the shot won't come off or something. And I just think, he's a trier. He puts the effort in. He's got the work rate. And I think would it be such a bad move? Because sometimes things don't pan out at certain clubs, do they? But maybe he just needs that little bit of love. And if the crowd get behind him at St James's, if he hits the ground running, then we'll absolutely adore him. And he's a top level player. And he's certainly an upgrade on what we've got, in my opinion.
Do you think that Timo Werner's, the pressure of playing for Chelsea as the main striker has got to him a little bit?
Yeah,
playing for Leipzig,
Probably
you're probably the second or third best team in the Bundesliga with the likes of Bayern Munich and Dortmund maybe as the second. You could probably maybe even put Leverkusen third or fourth. Yeah, he's within the top four, but he's certainly not considered the best. But you look at him playing for Germany around those top level quality players, and he plays well for Germany. He scores goals. He looks lightning. He looks like he played at Leipzig. But when it comes to Chelsea, it's almost like the pressure gets a little bit too much for him. And it can at certain clubs. But coming to Newcastle right now, top man, banana man, coming to Newcastle right now could be a real perfect foil for him, where he grows with the club. You've always got that expectancy at Chelsea. If you don't perform in a couple of years, you sold, you move on. Doesn't matter who you are. Lukaku is a perfect example of that. Andrei Shevchenko is another one, and so many other players, Alvaro Morata and Torres, and you go through all top level players over the course of the years.
Well, I wouldn't put Morata in a top level.
Well, I'm just talking like big money.
I know what you mean. It just as soon as you said Morata there, I got a cold shiver.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not top level, but those big money signings that come with expectation and then don't perform after a couple of years, get shipped out, and maybe he struggled with that pressure. And if you come to that point, thank you, Peter. If you come to that point where he comes to Newcastle, where the pressure's maybe a little bit less, and he can grow with us, maybe we can see the fruits of his abilities. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. It really is.
I was going to say
I wouldn't mind Werner. I totally agree. I think there's a player still in there. You don't lose that kind of quality. You just don't. And there's a few players at Chelsea you could say have, I don't know, is it down to mismanagement that they're just not playing them in the proper way that they played for the previous clubs? Because they've got that many players. It's hard for them. At Leipzig, Werner knew his job. He knew what he was going to do every week. Comes to Chelsea, and it's not exactly the same job. Sometimes he's playing as an out-and-out striker, which, by the way, he wasn't played at Leipzig. He was played on the left. And that's Werner's best position for me, is on the left, cutting in. But it just goes to show that when you've got that many players in a squad, like Chelsea have, sometimes bringing in these world-class players, it doesn't work because there's that many of them there. Players just don't know what they're doing from week in, week out because they're all over the pitch just to fit them in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there could be a lag in my internet at this stage. But all those Chelsea players that we've mentioned, we're kind of talking about enough about them now. But coming to Newcastle, you have the Eddie Howe factor, and he will get the best out of them. So Hudson-Odoi and Werner, bring them on if it's possible. And you never know as well, loans towards the end of the window might be something we could look at. So
we've got one final question. As I say, there may be more that come, but we've got one final question from the first lot anyway. And this is a quick round robin, and I think it's an interesting question that Chantel asks. Chantel Keane says, so one word answer, boys. Who do you think will be the captain this season?
Trippier.
Callum Wilson.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Do you do, Paul?
That's interesting, Pete. Why?
Yeah.
He was the captain when we played Arsenal, and that surprised me. The fact that he was given the armband when it could have gone to Shaw, it could have gone to a number of other players on the pitch who have played regularly this season. It could have gone to Dan Burn, who's been an absolute regular in the team, but it was given to Callum Wilson, and I think that was quite telling at that Arsenal game. The fact that he was given the armband, he could have quite easily started Trippier and given him the armband. Then I've got a feeling, I don't know why, just over the last 4 or 5 weeks, just watching and listening to Trippier, I've got a feeling that Trippier might not even want the armband. That's just my opinion. Not that he doesn't want it, but maybe he doesn't need it. Yeah. You get some players. I was the same. Like, you get some players that you don't need the armband to show how much you influence the team. You don't need to wear the armband to make a statement. You're just that way inclined. Whereas someone like Callum Wilson can just lead the team. And actually, if leading the team for Callum Wilson raises his game and allows him to play more football and allows him to do his business next season, like, that means more than anything else. That's just me. I could be way off, but I just thought Callum Wilson getting the armband in the Arsenal game.
It's an interesting argument. Definitely,
yeah, it is. Very interesting. I'm gonna go against the grain, and I hope I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling it might still be Lascelles.
Oh.
I really do. As in, still club captain and no decisions made on him. That's just a gut feeling I've got. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I just think that it depends on who we get in. We want 4 solid centre-back pairings. We talked about this last night, Chris, I think. We want 4 solid centre-back pairings, like in terms of 4 solid centre-backs. Dan Burn, potentially Sven Botman, we don't know, as your left-sided centre-backs. And then you've got Fabian Shaw, and then you've got kind of a question mark there. Who do we bring someone in, or do we keep with Jamal Lascelles? If we keep with Jamal Lascelles will stay captain. I think you're right. But I've just got a sneaky feeling that as the window gets on, that we'll sell him on. I don't think. And look, Daz, Chris, Paul, come at me if you disagree. I don't think that Jamal Lascelles is going to want to stay 4th choice at Newcastle United next season.
No, I don't either.
Last time I heard, he was on a boat. He was being shipped off somewhere on a boat. Did I hear that rumor?
Martin's boat. It's starting to fill up.
What, over to Forest? Down the Thames?
I don't think that's where he wanted to send him, if I recall. It was somewhere a long way off the coast.
Oh, God. Okay. We'll see.
Anyway,
we'll see. It's an interesting conversation, though. It really is.
Yeah, maybe we'll go back then to some of the items I had on our topics. Yeah, a link, I'm sure it'll come up on the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, but this man.
Yes.
Toussaint Abriano. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, like I do everyone else's name, but anyone know anything about him? It came up in the Mirror today, a story about him. He is... he's at Fulham. He's got 1 year left of his contract. He's 24. He is ex-Man City. He's an England youth prospect, and he's a right-footed centre-back. Anyone know anything about him?
He's a player.
Decent.
Yeah. Honestly, he was linked with us in the January transfer window. The Fulham transfer show, we brought him up quite early on. But obviously, because of the season that they were having, it didn't look like that a deal could be done at that stage, and you could understand that. However, Adebayo has 1 year left on his contract. That for me is important. Is that they are not going to want him to go for free. It doesn't look like he's going to sign a new deal. But what you've got is a big, physical, tall centre-back, pace, good tackler, decent on the ball. For me, if you could get a decent fee for him, as long as Fulham are not just going to kind of demand crazy money, even with a year left on his contract, for me, I think it's a no-brainer. I think as a right-sided centre-back, that's your goodbye to Lascelles. We've literally just talked about it. Like, if you could get him in at a decent fee, and ultimately if you could recoup 8 to 10 million for Jamal Lascelles, I think 8 to 10 million for Jamal Lascelles is paying a chunk of the fee that you're going to pay for Adebayo. That's my opinion.
See, Monaco have just signed Minamino.
I just looked at it. It's popped up. Minamino for what, 15.5 million?
Yeah, I think they got him. Liverpool got him cheap enough, didn't they? Originally.
Yeah, he had a release clause, I think, and I'm trying to think who they signed him from. Was it? It was a German club, wasn't it?
I think it was a German club. Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I want to say Leipzig, but I don't think it was Leipzig. But yeah, he. Liverpool have a habit, don't they, of signing players and then for reasonable fees and then making profit on them. I mean, they've even made the profit on Mane, and they've had his best years, and now they've got rid of him when he's wanting astronomical wages, and then the January before they swoop in and get Diaz, and to be fair to Liverpool, they do work the market well. And hopefully that's something that we do going forward. A lot of players, fees get added on just because they have for Liverpool. Just because they play for Liverpool. You get good value for players. They've done it with Shaqiri as well. Sold Shaqiri for a good little chunk. I think it was to Leon. They just turn players over, and they do well with the fees.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll move on. The other one I saw be mentioned, I can't remember what paper, but it was Fabian Ruiz from Napoli.
Yes.
He's been mentioned before. He was linked a few weeks ago as well. I think Alex did the stats on him. Not a bad player at all, actually. Somebody who could definitely make a difference in the team.
Is that a beard feet? Or?
Yeah, I know a little bit about him. Not loads, but he is a player that would instantly. It's a weird one because he would come into our midfield. He would be the alternative to the likes of Christian Eriksen, Lucas Paqueta. He'd be the alternative to those type of players, I would like to get Paqueta in because I think Paqueta is better, but Fabian Ruiz is still a very, very good player. Fantastic passer of the ball, great with long shots. You watch him play, and he makes things look so easy on the ball. When he gets the ball at his feet, it's very hard to get the ball off him, and he just makes things look so easy. I'm not putting him alongside these players, but you look at certain players like Johan Cabaye, you look at players like Bruno Guimaraes, you look at even players like in midfield like Paul Scholes. You can't get the ball off these guys. These guys are so comfortable on the ball, and they're so elegant and classy with the ball. Fabian Ruiz is that type of player. And as far as I'm aware, the fee that potentially he could go for is very, very interesting, but equally similar price to Seko Fofana. So
there's that link again. Seko Fofana.
Just saying.
Of course you are.
His agent.
I don't like you boys. I don't know much about Ruiz, but obviously he's ticking certain boxes, isn't he? Spanish international. And I was reading up on him before actually when I seen the link, and it was saying that he's used to playing in the midfield three as part of a pivot. And I thought, so automatically, we were allegedly we made a move for him in January. So the fact that Eddie Howe and his team are interested in him, doesn't surprise me at all. And as I say, I this is the nice thing about when we get linked with players now, though. there's like, it's not like under the Ashley days. There's like a trust there, isn't there? And
Yeah.
you know that whoever we're going to be bringing in, there's going to be a lot of research done, and it's not going to be on a whim or willy nilly. It's careful, it's calculated, and it's considered. And we haven't had that in the past. So any player that comes in, I think we'll all kind of be like, okay, you know, they've obviously done the homework on this player, and you know what, as we do with all players, you know, at Newcastle, we always get fully behind them as well. So I'm just excited. I can't wait for transfer number 3, 4, 5, 6, and hopefully we can get in as many as we can.
Yeah, I just double checked what I had checked earlier, but his contract there's only 1 year left on it, so that could be another reason why we're potentially looking into him.
That's why his price is low. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good if we did a show on that, Pete?
Yeah, definitely. Look, why not? Let's talk about it a little bit.
The price is right.
Yeah, definitely. Not Bruce's price is right though. Not that. But look, I just want to say, and I'm going off script here. We've got around 500 in the chat, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
If everyone at this point now could just like the show, give a little like to the show. Obviously, with that algorithm, it means that more people can pick up the show and pick up the channel. By clicking that like, it means a lot to us. You know, we've had 10, 20 new subscribers as we've been on tonight, which is fantastic. If you haven't subscribed to the show, click that subscribe button, come and join us. It means a lot to our channel that is very small, still growing, but growing nicely over the last year. It means a lot to us. So, with 500 in the chat, just click those two things. Takes 2 seconds, but it means a lot to us as a channel. And of course, whilst you're there, Paul, Toon Review, if you're not already a part of that channel, on the way to 12k.
I know. Wow.
We are, yeah.
12k. Go and join the Toon Review family and be part of the ultimate collaboration.
It's a big family.
I love the way he worded that. The ultimate collaboration. Hey, tell you what, you should be a voiceover for movies. Movie trailers.
I don't know about that. I think Morgan Freeman got a number on me. But no, it's the ultimate collaboration, and if you're part of the Loaded family, you have to be part of the Toon Review family, and vice versa. It's as simple as that.
Definitely.
So, join up.
Cool. I'm going to mention the sponsors now because I will forget. And with Chris, we can have a look at the other questions as well. But shout out to 1881 Bronwyn's website, which is a range of merchandise and ship of hoodies and shorts and t-shirts and so on and so forth. And also on that, you can click onto the Black and White Army collection through that website, and you'll find the loaded hat. And the money from that hat, the profit from that hat, goes towards the NUFC food bank. So check that out. Also, shout out to shybarnes.com and Simon, who's in the chat. As always, Simon's in the chat. And if he's not in the chat, he's DMing me every day. But yeah, great to have Simon on board. But and Simon has a range. So check out the range of t-shirts, hats, hoodies, you name it. You can find it on Simon's site. And I see Pete is going. That is the first look at the loaded t-shirt.
Hang on.
Hang on a minute. Right there.
Oh, he's going for it. He's going
He's taking his top off. That's why his camera's gone off.
Yeah. There's a special delivery from Chris. But look, we pushed it last night, promoted it last night. Don't get overloaded. Mag NUFC. In collaboration and supporting the sponsor with Shyburns, massive following and support with all things Shyburns, which is a big supporter of mental health. If you haven't already, show your support to Shyburns. They are fantastic, and Simon is fantastic in what he does. So he's an amazing sponsor, which we all know. Obviously, Daz, speaks to him quite a lot, as does Martin and Richie. So we are really appreciative of the support that Simon gives to the channel. Always in the chat, as Daz says, every single show. And for that, we really, really appreciate it because it means a lot. Look, Paul, from your support and your sponsors, odds, everyone coming in the show, it means a lot, doesn't it? When they're constantly supporting everything you do, and the likes of Simon and Retro NUFC, they are.
Once you start growing, you need that support, and it's these people that support everybody that behind the scenes makes a massive difference to everybody. So it's fantastic that these people are stepping forward, and that's a quality T-shirt there, and it's for a good cause as well, isn't it? So
and we're going to launch it properly. Where we're all some of our T-shirts haven't arrived yet; they got stuck in customs. Thanks, Brexit. So
wearing them.
So
exactly. Have them and then we'll wear them together.
So and then we'll actually do a proper launch as well, and we'll give you the full details.
Well, hang on. Then. We'll schedule. Are you scheduling that in for 2024 when Martin's available?
Yeah. Chris, do you want to show us your T-shirt? I'll put on some music for you.
Wow.
You liking that? I'm waiting for Martin to dip me because I picked the pink one.
Yeah. I would go with I wouldn't go with pink, Chris. I'd go with a manly salmon.
Yeah. I thought the same, Paul, when I picked it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we'll have more details on that in due course. But back to where I was with the sponsors. So that was Shy Barnes and Simon. Shout outs also to Pins and Prints and the range that Dean has on his website as well. And a shout out to Retro NUFC, and always changing the what's offer available on the site there, and also those bucket hats. Love those bucket hats. So you have to be quick though to nab them. So always you better following them and checking out what the latest he has there. But that's it from the sponsors. Before we tell people what's coming up during the week, do you want to go back to the questions, Chris? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We've got 2 more questions, and I have to apologise to everyone because the comments have just been absolutely flooding in. So I'm going to have to. I am playing catch up a bit here, and there may have been some even more fantastic questions that I've not actually got round to. But what I want to make sure is that obviously we give a shout out to everybody who's made a donation to the channel tonight, which is obviously really generous. So
I think you missed Tampa Toons.
Tampa Toon, yeah.
Stolen there, Chris. Stolen.
Yeah. Mate. I'm looking, and I'm thinking, where is it? I can't see it.
I know what he said. If you want us to read it out,
it's in the start. It's in the start.
Yeah.
Oh, is it in the start?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I literally dropped a note.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
thanks, Tampa Toon.
Thank you, Tampa Toon. Thank you to everyone who's donated tonight. It honestly, as people were saying before, it doesn't matter whether it's 10p or 50 £50, doesn't really matter. It's all about showing your support for the channel. And £6.10, yeah.
Can I just say as well about the timing of the separate shows? Normally we, last Thursday was a good instance of that. We saw that Loaded went at 8, we went on at 9. Normally, I don't think Loaded do a show on a Monday, do they? Because I got quite a surprise when I saw you guys on at 8 o'clock the same time as us. But listen, that's going to happen sometimes, guys. With the channels, it's when everybody can be available to do the shows. So yes, even we're in collaboration. Sometimes we're going to go on at the same time. That can't be helped. But again, it's not like we're in competition with each other or anything like that. We're just doing different shows. So the beauty about YouTube is if you subscribe to both channels, you can watch one live, you can watch one on the rerun.
Exactly.
But it doesn't happen a lot, to be fair, between these two channels. We don't go on a lot at the same time at all. So that was just once in a blue moon, that I think. So apologies for that, but it can't be helped. It's just when people are available. But
no, I don't think anybody needs to apologize, Paul, at all. It's just one of those things. Like literally, the show that we did last night was just so off the cuff, like it was last minute thing. But actually, I think Tampa Toon's made some good point. Is that I think I think what we'll do is talk a little bit more to ensure that everyone that supports both channels are able to watch both shows live, even if we do it earlier in work.
I did have some comments on my show last night saying that they were watching us both at the same time. He had one of us on the computer and one of us on his iPad. So, and there was a few comments came in like that saying, "Oh, you're on the same. I've got me headphones. I've got two pairs of headphones. I've got one in one ear for the Toon Review, and I've got one in one ear for Loaded Mag." And it's so people do all sorts of different things to try and keep in touch. But as I say, like you say, the beauty of YouTube is you can go back and watch a rerun of the one you haven't seen, and you're still getting the view for it. So it's you're still getting that all important viewing figures, which is good.
And we'll keep pushing when you're on, and vice versa. So we'll always, from a collaboration point of view, we'll always know when each other is on.
And the thing is, YouTube is basically taking over from normal television now. I don't care what anybody says. I watch YouTube way more than I watch TV. Because there's more interesting things to watch on YouTube now. So it's only going to be getting bigger and bigger. And, undoubtedly there'll be times where we can't do anything but be on at the same time. But listen, that's the way it is. But it's like we're not in competition, and you can watch a rerun of one. So that's the beauty of YouTube. Whereas if we were both on TV at the same time, it's a bit different. But
yeah.
Hey-ho.
Sky Plus it. But just the other thing then is that we're we have to coordinate with ourselves and time slots. Then we have to coordinate with a guest. And you're the same, Paul, with finding the time slot that suits most of the guys, the team. Like, so it's not always as easy as it might sound. Just to go, you pick that time, you pick that time.
It is. I mean, Alex is back and forth from Poland at the minute. It's difficult. You've got Danielle, who's on early shifts sometimes during the week, early part of the week, so she can't do evening shows sometimes, and I have to normally set it for the same sort of times, but it doesn't matter to me if we're on both at the same time, because I know that most of the viewers will watch a rerun of one anyway. So, and these are the only two channels I really care about anyway. So, I'm not bothered about the other one. Well, I don't wish anything bad on the other ones. Obviously, we're not in competition with anybody. It's just we're collabing, so I care for these two channels more than I do any other. So,
absolutely, mate.
Cool. Any more questions, Chris?
Yeah, so we've got some questions. We'll quickly whiz through them. Some of them won't take long, but they're interesting. That's obviously why I've starred them. Carlos 2 NUFC says, "Do you think Miggy will stay, lads?"
Great question.
Yes,
I think he'll stay.
What do you think, Daz?
I'm thinking he's staying now, but at towards the end of the season, I thought he was definitely gone. But he's doing well for Paraguay as well, so probably will hang around unless we go crazy towards the end of that transfer market, which I'm hoping we do. Then he could be on his bike.
I think he will stay. I've got a feeling that Jacob Murphy will leave later on in the window. I think that would allow us to get a right winger in. I've got this mindset that I think that going into next season, ASM and Ryan Fraser will fight out for the left-hand side of midfield. Because let's face it, Ryan Fraser is a left-hand sided midfielder. That's why.
And we've seen that when he moved over, didn't we, Pete? We've seen it.
Against Brentford, he was outstanding. He destroyed their right-hand side. Aya, who we tried to sign from Celtic, he left him for dead time and time again. He's a left-handed side midfielder. I think those two are going to fight out for that position, and then it will be potentially whoever we sign, and then Miggy as the alternative. And I think Murphy will go, and I think that's who we'll go with in the summer. Just my opinion. Could well be wrong, but yeah, just my thought.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Is Chris on mute, or is it just me?
He's on mute. He's yapping away. He's on mute.
Sorry, guys. I'll try that again. So Wes Fullerton says,
You have just had a Sinclair, my man. Without a doubt.
That is an awful
Yeah.
one, to be fair. That's from like 2019, that isn't it? That's an awful one.
Oh, wow.
Right. So Wes Fullerton says, who would be your marquee signing, lads? And do you think we'll pull in a superstar name? And Uggy asked the same question, but Uggy said at the end he thinks it'll be Paqueta. But Daz, who do you think we're going to get a marquee signing? And if so, who would be that marquee signing?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it. I actually thought that the start of our window we go crazy, and because we're in the big time, and but it's been a slow build up, and I know the owners they're going to get value for money and stuff like that. But I think as they get the some deals over the line towards the end, they will go mad on at least one signing just to spice it up a bit. And I'd love if it was Paqueta. That'll be the icing on the cake for me. Or this man, and I know Martin mentioned him. There's this Lille and Napoli deal has been investigated. Victor Osimhen, I'd love if he rocked up into town as well. One big name player like that, and not a faded superstar like a Gareth Bale. I want an up and coming kind of can do it now and will do it for the next 5 years kind of signing.
Osimhen's a monster. He's a monster signing. It'd be a great signing. What do you guys think then? Who do you think the marquee signing could be? I know we've had one or two opinions. Paul, what do you think? Who do you think a marquee signing could be?
I don't know. I truly don't know.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Like, what would you from the players that we've been linked with? Who would you consider to be a marquee signing for? And look, I'm giving you a pool of like 1,000 players who will be linked with.
I'm gonna say we haven't been linked with many, have we?
Yeah, but who would you consider?
Do you know what? Probably Diaby.
I was going to say the same.
Leverkusen. I think he'd be a fantastic acquisition. He'd fill a position as well, which we're desperate for on that right-hand side. Somebody that can do it and excite us as well. And I think he would be an absolutely wonderful signing. And I think if we got somebody like Diaby in, that could open the door for, the real big names to look and say, wow, they are starting to, drag in these big name players and it could really open the door. So for me, probably Diaby. We can't aim sort of higher than that, I don't think. Not where we are at the minute.
Yeah, just to add on to you there, Paul, I completely agree. I was going to say Diaby myself. I think as much as we need a striker, and I do believe we can't start the season with Callum Wilson and Chris Wood and possibly Ekitike. I think we need more. For me, Diaby would be the one. I watched him the other week for France, and there was this little moment. I think the goal was ruled offside, but it was just all of a sudden this burst of pace, and then he just put a through ball through, and I was just like, wow, like he looks the real deal to me. And right age, he's got the stats to prove it for Leverkusen last season. I think he would be an excellent signing.
There's some people saying Ward-Prowse in the chat, but sorry, but I'm not that bothered about Ward-Prowse. I think he's a fantastic set piece taker, but the rest of it's not there. And Alex proved that when he put his stats up the other day on my show. He doesn't offer what a lot of these other players that have been linked do. And don't get me wrong, fantastic set piece taker, a good leader by all the sounds of it, but now for me, there's better players.
And not to mention the price, Paul.
Well,
how much
how much are we going to have to pay for Ward-Prowse?
I think has he still got 4 years left on his contract?
Something like that, mate. Yeah, so he's going to cost an awful lot of money.
Season, because obviously Villa bid 40 million for him, and they rejected that, and then he signed a new deal. Look, like Chris is clearly in agreement with you, Paul, and so am I. Am I going to turn away James Ward-Prowse? I'd be mad to. If he was to sign for us, I wouldn't say no to him. But actually, if you look at the type of midfield that we're building, I think this is what you're alluding to, Paul. If we're trying to build a progressive, attacking, high press type midfield that we saw last season, he doesn't really fit that. He covers ground. He covers a lot of ground during the game, but he's not a high press midfielder. Like, you'd almost have to play him in a Shelby role to get anything out of him.
Yeah.
But that's not really his position.
No.
And I find it very difficult to spend 40-45 million on a midfielder for their set piece ability. Like, we can already see when he plays for England, it's not just about set pieces. You've got to be able to perform as well. And if we're going in that direction at 28 years old, he probably isn't the right deal for us right now, in my opinion. There's someone else put it in the chat, and I would agree with it in that I think someone like, and he'd be free, but someone like Christian Eriksen would be, for me, a marquee signing. If we were to get Christian Eriksen, I don't think we can underestimate how good he is. Like, Tottenham, as we saw in the documentary, didn't want to lose him because they knew how good he was. He went to Inter Milan. He was unbelievable at Inter Milan. And only because of a heart defect problem on international duties, the only reason why he's not still currently playing Champions League football. We would do again what we did in January, is get a Champions League footballer like we did with Bruno Guimaraes in Christian Eriksen and bring him into that midfield. I would love to see our ball possession in our midfield with Christian Eriksen, Bruno Guimaraes, and Joe Linton. I would find it. I would find a team. It'd be very difficult to find a team that would, maybe Man City, but a team that would be able to.
Yeah, and then can you imagine ASM, Wilson, and Diaby?
There you go. That team there. You've just said that attacking forward line in Eriksen, Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, ASM, Moussa Diaby, Callum Wilson, or maybe another striker. That for me is a top 8 team. For me.
No.
Who did that? Whoever did that.
I did that for the crack. I did it for the crack.
That's what they've done. They've ruined the moment. Paul's just named 6 top-level players that would catapult us, for me, in the top 8. That, I don't know whether you guys agree with this. Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, Christian Eriksen, ASM, Moussa Diaby, Callum Wilson is better than West Ham's front 6.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
What do you, Paul, Daz, what do you think?
Did you mention Hugo there?
No, and I didn't even mention
Hugo's on the bench.
Hugo Ekitike. Or
Ekitike,
man.
I think I watched one of your shows and you referred to him mid-show as Ekitike, and nobody mentioned it.
No, I do that I do that for Alex's benefit because I know he likes the Queen's English, so I try and pronounce words. I try once or twice during the show just to pronounce it a couple of times, like Ekitike. But it's just that name is made for a Geordie, isn't it? Ekitike. But apparently he's a Newcastle player according to some.
Yeah. And I hope they're right.
Listen, the Newcastle players, when they're holding the shirt, right? Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah. I don't know if you put that on purposefully, Chris.
I did because we were talking about him. Yeah, I just threw it on.
That was there's at least 2 or 3 journalists that are journalists for Brentford, Man United, Tottenham, all put out today that there's talk that Eriksen has rejected Man United. There is talk that, as well as that, Spurs have called their interest in him, which makes sense to me. I don't see him going back to Spurs making sense now with the midfield that they're building, which then leaves Brentford.
It's another Shearer. He's turned Man United down. He comes to us. He scores a worldie against Man United. And then he goes running up to the away fans and does a Shearer.
Yeah.
You can just see it now. It's written in the stars.
So, look, if it's down to us in Brentford, I would expect him to want to be part of our project. There was some reports from 1 or 2 journalists that it could well be that he's still in talk with Newcastle and could well be this week. We don't know for sure. But it will be interesting to see how that transpires. But I think if it does become a straight shootout between us and Brentford, for me, I've got to be honest, regardless of his spell at Brentford, I think he should be choosing Newcastle.
I think though he is. I can imagine him having been a little bit torn to leave Brentford after what they've done for him. You know, there's the emotional side, and I know he's got to think of his career, but there's also the emotional side of it, isn't it? You know, Brentford were the club that stepped up and gave him the pathway back into football, especially at the very top level. And he hasn't let Brentford down. To be fair, he's been brilliant for them, but you know, he's probably a little torn about that. He certainly want to rock the boat with them after they've been so good to them. But I agree, Pete. I think, you know, it comes down to, if it comes down to us and Brentford, I don't think he'd stay at Brentford, to be honest. I think we'd managed to persuade him to come up here simply because of what we have to offer and what the ambition of the club is. So for me, you know, and if he does that, I will personally drive to see Gabby Agbonlahor at Talksport Towers and throw eggs at him because, you know, there's another one, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Interesting stuff. And, you know, he could well go to Brentford for 10 grand less. But
listen, I understand if he does. You know, it's perfectly understandable, but I think we'd offer him more than 10 grand, but, you know, so we'll see.
Hey, and that would leave more cash in the kitty to bring in the striker. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pleased that wasn't Calvert-Lewin came up there or somebody needed shot.
I know. Well, we've got one more question, and I never thought we'd end on this, but I suppose it is an interesting topic, and it's something that, you know, we can all think about going forward. But Richard P asks, do you think Lingard will drop his wage demands when he sees what Trippier is on? He may see things more realistically. Still think he will be a good addition to the squad, just not for silly money. So I think Richard makes a good point there, because obviously Jesse Lingard and his agent will be, you know, trying to get the maximum that they can. Obviously, he's a free agent. He'll get a signing on fee, and they've already been speaking about signing on fees and how Newcastle may look to offer a bigger signing on fee to reduce wages going forward. But, you know, what do we think about what Richards wrote there? Do we think that Jesse Lingard's going to run out of options and maybe Newcastle will come back onto the scene? Or do you think, you know, like we've just been talking about Christian Eriksen, if we were to sign Christian Eriksen, do you think our interest in Jesse Lingard will cool? Do you think it's one or the other, or do you think we'll look elsewhere?
To be fair, if you look at Lingard's social media, I don't think he's bothered at the minute about where he doesn't seem urgently trying to find a football club, does he? He's putting all these dance moves out and all of this.
We said this yesterday, didn't we, Pete? Said exactly the same yesterday.
I mean, I don't understand why Lingard's doing that. I mean, you know, he hasn't got a club at the minute. He may know better than us, though. He may have a club lined up, which is why he's just giving the impression that he's not bothered. You know, he may. Jesus Christ!
Sorry.
I think, listen, if he drops his wages, I still think Lingard would be a good addition to the team. I think he's a very, very good footballer. And if his mind's on the football, then I ain't got a problem with that, provided he drops his wages demands, because maybe they can give him a bit more signing on fee. But I think as time goes on, if he hasn't got a club, then maybe he has to. Maybe he's got to drop his wage demands. And it'll be a kick up the arse for him to realise that he's not as highly thought of, maybe, as what he thinks he is. But listen, I think he'd be a Newcastle player now had Man United not dossed us around in January. I think we could have got him on loan, and I'm pretty sure if he'd spent 6 months with us, he would sign. But because of Man United pissing him about and pissing us about, it didn't happen. So I feel sorry for him in a way for that, because he did state that he wanted to come. And he did say that. He said Man United pissed him about. But now I think he needs to... He's got to lower them, guys, hasn't he? He's got to, because I don't think there's many teams going to pay what he's demanding.
Yeah. I think Man United pissed us about, and thanks Scotty as well. And I think I'm feeling they probably do the same thing with Dean Henderson, and with that adding on the Newcastle tax. That's why we probably said jog on. We'll move on. But yeah, I can see Lingard hanging on towards the end of the transfer window, and he'll want to be there for the start of the season though. So I think it will drag on though for Lingard. He will rock up at some club. If he drops his wage demand, yeah, he'd come into contention for us, but not at the fees that are being talked
He
about.
could go abroad, Daz, to be fair. He could go overseas.
Yeah.
He could play in one of the overseas leagues. If they're wanting to offer silly money to him, you never know.
Silly money, though. Where is it?
If you're talking silly money, there's only one place where you're going to get silly money, and that's playing in the Premier League.
Do you not think the MLS would offer him something, Pete?
Lingard?
Yeah.
I think they would, but I don't think Lingard's ready for the for the States yet. I think at 33, maybe 34. I think if he gets 3, maybe 4 years out of playing Premier League football, I think at that point at 34 he might go to the MLS and play for a few years and build his brand. But like not I don't think he'll want to move right now. I just think that he's going to have to dramatically lower his wage, and I think it's probably agent related in why he's holding such a high number. Yeah. But it will naturally come down because look, we're back in preseason training in 2 weeks' time, or less than 2 weeks' time. Yeah. Like ideally he would have wanted to be turning up at his new club on July the 1st. He's still fighting to play for England at Qatar. He's going to need a team that, one, is playing regular football, and two, playing football at a high level to ensure that he gets picked for Gareth Southgate. Because I think if he comes to Newcastle and he plays regularly, whether it's on the left or the right, I think Gareth Southgate picks him, and I think he goes to the World Cup.
His attitude's got to be right, though, Pete. That's the thing. That's the big thing. The big question mark over his head is: has he still got the passion, to go out there and do it week in, week out? I think you're right. I think the England situation still very much appeals to him. You can tell that when he talks about it. He's still got. You can still hear it in his voice. But I think he needs to go to a club and put to rest this attitude thing. Prove to everybody that he is a footballer first, and all of that, lifestyle comes second. He wants to do it on the football pitch, and I think he needs to shut a few people up. So, I'd love to see him at Newcastle. I really would. I think he'd do a great job. But time will tell where he goes, I guess.
Yeah. West Ham.
Just before we finish up, guys, we've had one last question in from Paul Oxley, and I'm going to direct this one at Paul because we've heard this name before, and no doubt we'll get it linked again. But Paul, what do you think the chances are of us signing him?
Well, I mean, I think John Sinclair's the man to ask. To be honest, because if I do recall, this name popped up on John Sinclair's channel, and when he was on with Maisie, the Man United fan, and then all of a sudden he went into I think it was Peter Proudlock's channel, and there was about 6 or 7 of them on that channel, on that show, and John actually. Seriously,
you have a choice, Paul. You have a choice. Who do you want to sign?
And then John actually piped up and went, "Guys, can I just ask, who is this Mo Lester?" Honestly, mental. I mean, you know what it is though. It's one of the YouTube highlights of the year. That, without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, John's at the forefront of most of the YouTube highlights, but I think we're going to add you to that tonight, Chris.
Yeah. Stick me on there. I seen it and I thought, you know what, in memory, if you like, of John Sinclair, I thought I've got to stick that one up. But big shout out to John. And if you don't follow John, top bloke.
Yeah, follow John and subscribe to John as well, actually.
Yeah,
and also, as we said earlier, subscribe to Paul and subscribe to us while you're at it. Maybe we should call it a night, lads. So we're getting at the 2-hour mark, and we should tell people what's coming up on our channel tomorrow. And Pete, this is where I hand over to you to tell us what's happening tomorrow.
Well, we are back. Episode 4, if I'm right in thinking.
Yeah, episode 4.
Episode 4. Right. So yeah, we are back. The Loaded Boys will be back, joined by Jordan Cronin, and we will be talking all things Newcastle United. And we've talked about one or two things tonight, but one or two other things have been breaking in the last few days that we are going to be discussing. A few new links, a few new interests, and let's face it, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So we could be breaking something brand new that we don't already know. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Love the transfer stuff that we do across the board. And yet we're going to be talking about all things Newcastle United, as well as looking at one or two players, some potentials, one or two players who missed out on last week that we didn't get time to discuss that we're going to bring to the table because things might change. And it looks like one or two players that we're going to bring in tomorrow night, the situations have changed with their potential move. So lots to talk about.
Yeah, well, by the time you do the show tomorrow night, Pete, they might have changed again. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, Paul, and that's the beauty of doing these transfer shows is that we're talking about the show tomorrow, and I've got an idea, and we've got an idea what we're going to talk about, but that script can be completely ripped up by 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and that's why that's why we love what we do. That is for sure. So Fully Loaded Transfer Show, 8 p.m. Don't be late. It's going to be an absolute belter of a show.
And I have a feeling after that, we're going to have a few more shows as well. We're not going to say too much about it yet, but there may even be a Sunday morning show. That might, and that will interest the Aussies in the chat because they always have to get up really early to watch this, but there might be a morning show from Loaded. So it won't be a mistake by me hitting the wrong time on StreamYard this time, but we won't release the details yet. And also then, speaking of the script changing, we bring back the man who has been silent on Monday evening. He's been silenced. It's Sean Casey. Sean Casey's back with us on Monday, and he has a lot to say, I'm sure. He always does. So he's been staying away from Twitter, but he'll be back to unload on Monday. So that should be interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it from us, I think, tonight. Paul, thanks a million for joining us tonight. As always, we'll be back on with Paul again pretty soon. Hopefully Martin decides to turn up this time.
Well, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Just for once.
And a shout out to Richie as well. We got Richie back on soon enough as well with us. So that'd be good as well. So yeah, we'll just we'll say goodnight to everyone. Make sure I press the right button here now and I'll press this one for There's ASM. Off he goes. Radio. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll sing out with the How. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
T-shirt. Look at that T-shirt.